Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
We have come to look into the last concept in government in our study for today. And the last concept which we have here is the concept of sovereignty. By sovereignty, we mean supreme power and authority of the state over its citizens. It is the power of the state to make laws and enforce them with all the means of coercion it cares to employ, without any interference by other states. That is to say, that for a state to be sovereign, it must have the authority on its own. It must have the ability on its own to govern its people. And in the governance of its people, the laws which the state makes and enforces is what it uses to compel obedience. And no other state from anywhere is to interfere in the affairs of this state. So any state that enjoys sovereignty has the power to be on its own without any oppression from the outside, without any interference from the outside, or without any interference by other states. It will interest you to know that the idea of sovereignty originated from Jean Bodin, a philosopher, a political thinker, and a Frenchman who lived from 1530 to 1590. He was the one who propounded the theory of sovereignty. Characteristics of sovereignty. We ask, what are the features of sovereignty? What are its attributes? The first feature is the feature of indivisibility. Sovereignty is supreme, final, and with the coercive power of the state over the people living within the state. Sovereignty cannot be divided, though government can delegate powers to certain agencies. This is the first feature of sovereignty. Number two, comprehensiveness. The powers exercised by the government are wide and encompassing. The powers are binding on all. Nobody in any state is above the law. Everybody in every state is subject to the law. So the powers exercised by the government are for all and binding on all, as no one is an exception. Number three, we have absoluteness. The powers of a sovereign state cannot be restricted. There is no limitation to its legal powers within its area, and it receives orders from none. Nobody gives order to a sovereign state. It has the power to govern its territory, and the power which it enjoys in its absolute nature is unlimited, as its power is unrestricted. Number four, independence of foreign control. Every sovereign state is independent of foreign control, as no control from the outside comes to any independent state. Number five, we have permanence. As long as the state exists, sovereignty continues without interruption. It is a permanent attribute of the state which does not change. These are the characteristics of sovereignty. We will now look into the types of sovereignty. Number one, we have legal sovereignty. This is the body that makes laws and enforces same in the states. That body is called the legal sovereign. For example, we have the parliament, which is the legal sovereign in Britain. In Nigeria, we have the National Assembly to be the legal sovereign of Nigeria. So this body that makes the laws and enforces the same in the state is called the legal sovereign. And that is the first type, which is called legal sovereignty. Number 2, we have de facto sovereignty. De facto refers to the body or group of people who use force to make citizens obey their will after overthrowing the legitimate sovereign of the state through invasion or revolution. Example, we have the military in government. By the word de facto, we mean force. So in your study of government, anywhere you see the word de facto, let it come to your mind that what is talked about is force or coercion. So in this sovereignty, which is called de facto, these people uses force to compel obedience to their instructions. And this is against the dividends of democracy. Because democracy is the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. We have the third one, which is called de jure sovereignty. This type of sovereign rule is based on laws and its application, and as opposed to the physical exercise or use of force. So de jure is just the opposite of de facto. While de facto posits that force is to be used in compelling obedience, de jure posits that the rule of law is to be applied in obedience compliance. Number 4, we have internal sovereignty. By the word internal, we mean within. This refers to the supreme power of a state to make and enforce laws within its area of authority. The 5th one, we have external sovereignty. This is the power of the state to exist, to conduct its domestic affairs without external interference. The state also has the power to decide on how to relate with other nations of the world on equal basis. This forms what we have as external sovereignty. So we have seen the meaning of sovereignty. We have also seen its features, and we have also seen the types. We are now going to the last discussion for this topic. And the last discussion is limitations to the sovereignty of a state. Can the power of a state to govern itself be limited? If yes, we would know after explaining these points. The first limitation to the sovereignty of a state is the Constitution. Constitution of most states are supreme. It defines the powers exercised by the various levels of government. It therefore limits the powers of the government, since it cannot exceed the bounds of the Constitution. Number 2, international laws. This is concerned with relationship among nations of the world. States that disobey international laws may face some sanctions. These sanctions are usually imposed by the Security Council of the United Nations Organization. Number 3, we have the military. The military, through forceful removal of democratic government, is a limitation to the sovereignty of the states, as they usually suspend the constitution after takeover of power. Remember that immediately the military takes over government, the first thing it does is to suspend the constitution. Hence, it doesn't rule with the provision of the Constitution, but it roots with decrees. The fourth one we have is public opinion. In democracy, governments are open and accommodating. They take into consideration the opinion of the people when formulating policies. This is a limitation to the exercise of government powers, because in a bid for them to enact laws, they must consider what are the things that will benefit the people. What are people saying about these laws? Or what will be the effect of these laws if enacted finally? Will it benefit the people or will it affect them negatively? So in their bid to consider all these things, to ensure a government that will be legitimate to govern its people, public opinion stands as a limitation to the exercise of government powers. Number 5, we have interdependence of states. Most less developed countries of this world depend on the developed ones for aids of different dimensions. Remember that no state on its own is comfortable, is confident of its own resources, as each state depends on the other to get some economic and raw materials for it to govern and make its state to move well. So the donor countries can influence both the domestic and external policies of the recipient country, and this constitutes a limitation. An example, let us say or assume that Nigeria depends on America to get electricity. Nigeria can be influenced in its policies in a bid to do something that is against America, since they would give them a threat that if you do this which you want to do against us, we will not give you power again. And this can limit the power of Nigeria to make its policies and laws. Number 6, we have type of government in power. The exercise of sovereignty is best achieved in a unitary state than the federal or confederal systems of government, which is to say that in a state where power is centralized, where power resides in the center and flows to other organs of government, other levels of government, always gives room for the exercise of sovereignty in its best achievement than in federal states where power is devolved or where power is shared. Lastly, and the 7th point, we have customs and traditions. Customs and tradition of the people are mostly considered by the states before or when making laws, as no state would want to make a law that will contravene the belief and customs of the people. Since if they do this, the people will not accept the law in good faith and will remain passive to its actualization. Thus, customs and traditions remains a limitation to sovereignty. With these points, we have come to the conclusion of our topic on the basic concepts in government. We started with the state as a concept. We looked into the nation. We looked into power. From power we treated authority, legitimacy, and finally sovereignty. With this explanation and teaching, I am convinced that wherever you see yourself and somebody asks you a question pertaining to the basic concepts in government, you can be able to answer correctly and also stand the test of time to discuss with other people, of other colleagues of yours, on these concepts in government. Having understood this, I want to convincingly say that we have done a lot today. Be a better student. Thank you and have a nice day.